So if you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you have some questions when it comes to pricing your agency services. Questions like, should I just be charging a monthly fee? And if so, how much? Or should I be charging a percentage of ad spend plus a monthly fee? Or should I be charging a percentage of ROAS plus a monthly fee? Well, whether you are working with local businesses or online businesses like e-commerce and information products, in this video, I'm gonna go ahead and break down the exact pricing structure that we use at my agency. This is the same exact pricing structure that allows us to make anywhere from $5,000 a month per client all the way to $20,000 a month per client, with the average client paying us around $7,500 every single month. Now, this is just one of 15 videos available in our free Skool community. And if after watching this video you find it useful, I want to go ahead and invite you to click the link in the description and join our community. As a member of this free Skool community, you not will only get access to in-depth training, but you're also going to get access to all of the downloadable materials that I personally use at the agency. And furthermore, you'll have access to me personally where you can go ahead and ask me a question and get an answer in real time. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video.
Hey, I hope you're doing well. In this video, we're going to go ahead and talk about how to price your SMMA services. Now, for context, the first part of this video is going to be covering e-commerce and information products, or really any client where you can actually track exactly how much money you spent versus how much revenue you generated. The second part of this video, which is going to be the halfway and towards the end, we're going to go ahead and talk about local businesses. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, first thing I want to go ahead and tell you about is there's a couple of things that you should consider. And the first is that when starting out, you won't be able to demand the price that you want. You need to earn this right by delivering great results and gaining the experience and confidence that you need to name the price that you believe is actually worth your time. Just like anything in life, when you're starting out, you're not going to be able to, charge exactly what you want to charge. I know when I started out with my SEO agency, I was charging, I think, like $500 about 5 years ago. But fast forward to now, we charge our clients minimum $2,500 a month plus a percentage of revenue. We have clients that pay us anywhere between $5,000 all the way to $25,000 a month. So over time, you're going to get better at this and you're going to be able to demand the price that you want. But when you're starting out, just know that you're going to have to, do some work right now for a lower price, but the more experience you get, the more confidence you have, you'll be able to go ahead and, really charge what your time is worth. So that's the first thing you should consider. The second thing is that your service price is literally just a number. So don't be scared to ask for it once you have earned it. To be honest with you guys, like when we talk about pricing our SMA services, it's literally just a number if you really think about it. It's a number that we make up. You're watching this video because you want to understand how much to charge. So imagine if you charge $500 more or $500 less. It's literally just a number. So once you actually truly believe that this is worth your time, that your time is worth this much, then you can go ahead and ask for that number. For example, right now I charge $400 an hour for anyone to get on a call with me and have me consult them. If you asked me a few years ago that I would be able to charge $400 an hour, it would have been unheard of. But how did I come up with this 400? It's literally just a number that I came up with. I'm like, you know what? Let's do 400, right? So long story short, the price is just a number. And, once you've earned it, don't be scared to raise your price. Don't be scared to ask for what you're worth. Last thing I want you to consider is to always consider a way where you can charge revenue share when working with your clients. Okay, so what do we mean by revenue share? Revenue share is the revenue that you're able to generate them. And like we mentioned, this is mainly going to pertain to e-commerce and information product. You guys have to really find a way to charge a percentage of revenue rather than just a monthly fee. To give you guys an example, 70% of the monthly of the revenue that we make at the agency comes from this rev share model. I'll give you guys another example. In our best month, it was November 2022. For one client, we generated them $450,000. It was around that. It was a little more than $450,000. That client paid us $47,000, like $47,500. Okay, now we charged them $2,500 a month, but they paid us an extra $45,000. And why is that? Because we charge them a percentage of the revenue that we generate them. Now, you might think, like that's a lot, and it actually is a lot. That specific client wanted us to renegotiate the month after, and we did. We renegotiated down from 10% all the way to 7.5. But the idea here is that if you really think about it, clients are not, they're willing to do this pricing structure because what you're essentially telling them is the amount of money you pay me is based on how much revenue I generate you. So for example, if I came to you right now, you watching this video, and I came to you and I said, if I generate you $100,000, would you be willing to pay me 10,000? You'd be like, of course, If you generate me 100,000, I don't have no issue paying you 10,000. That's exactly the same concept we approach our clients with this rev share model. Is that you want to be charging a revenue share, a percentage of the revenue share, because essentially this is going to be 50 to 70, even 80% of the revenue that you make at your agency long term. Okay. So if there's a way that you can incorporate rev share, highly recommend that you do so. Now let's go ahead and talk about the monthly fee, okay, which is the first part of this pricing structure. Now for e-commerce or information product, or really any business where you can track how much you spent versus how much you generated, I recommend anywhere between $500 to $3,500. Now that's a huge difference, right? Huge comparison. The reason I mentioned 500 is because, I don't know, maybe you're watching this video and you're just starting out, so you might have to charge 500, but then you have someone like me who's been in the game for 5 years now, where I can charge 2,500 to 3,500 based on many factors. So just to give you a ballpark, it's going to be anywhere between $500 to $3,500 a month. And again, guys, this is just a number. I know people, I have agency friends that are charging minimum $10,000 a month plus rev share. So if you can charge more than 3,500, be my guest. But this is really just a ballpark, assuming that you watching this video are just starting out or have been in the game for a few years. Now, there's a deciding factor between if it's 500 or 3,500. What are those deciding factors? Well, there's really three things that I listed here. The first one is the years of experience. So how many years have you actually been running these ads? The second is the number of platforms you're advertising on. So for our clients that we charge $2,500 for, they're mainly advertising on Meta and Google, okay? But then we have clients that want to advertise on Meta, Google, Snapchat, TikTok, as well as native banner ads like AdRoll. So in that case, we actually charge them $3,500, and they can make sense of that. An extra $1,000 to advertise on all these platforms, it makes sense, right? So this is the deciding factor number two. And the last one is other services being offered for free to leverage getting your clients' results. So for example, this is a really great example. Within the last year, we started offering content creation for our clients, so UGC, where they actually will create the content, but then we have a team of 6 video editors and graphic designers who will actually go ahead and edit the content and create different variations for, let's say, for example, UGC. So in that case, we offer this service for free, but we make a little bit of money on the back end by charging them an extra, monthly fee of $3,500. So when we offer it to them, we're like, okay, for $3,500, we're gonna run ads on 4 different platforms, and then what we're also gonna do is your actual content creation, where either you're gonna create the content or we're gonna reach out to our pool of UGC creators who will create the content, give it back to us, and then we'll go ahead and do all the editing and create different variations for $3,500. So they can make sense of that. Okay, so these are the deciding factors, guys, like that I personally use as to how I can have the client make sense of, am I charging them, let's say, $2,500 or $3,500 a month? Yours might be the same, yours might be different. The whole point here is that you need to have a reason as to why you're charging this monthly fee. And these 3 reasons are really a good starting point. Now, that is the monthly fee, okay? Now, let's talk about rev share. Okay, so when we charge anywhere between 7.5% all the way to 15% of the revenue that we generate our clients. If a client thinks that this percentage is too much, or the monthly fee is too much, you can go ahead and play around with the numbers to give them more options that they might consider. So as I mentioned to you guys, we only have actually one client we're charging 7.5% just because we're generating them a lot of money per month. But then we have clients that we charge 15% a month of the revenue share. And that's because they're an information product client, and virtually all of, aside from ad spend and what they pay us, all of the revenue that they make is 100% profit because they're selling an actual information product. It's not a physical product. So this is the amount that we charge. I would recommend anywhere between that amount. Now, if you go a little bit higher, client can't make sense of that, but hey, if you can do 20% or 25%, be my guest. I know a lot of my agency friends are charging probably lower than 7.5% because, maybe their clients are making a ton of money and they can't make sense of paying you, $20, $30, $40,000 a month based on the revenue share. So really this fluctuates, but, from what we do is 7.5 to 15%. Now, if the client says this is too much, so going back to the example that I gave you with the client where we generated them $450,000 a month, and then from 10% they pay us $45,000 plus the $2,500. After that they're like, hey man, this is a big thing that we're paying you this month, and we want to go ahead and renegotiate exactly this pricing structure. And I was like, okay, because I don't want to lose this client, right? This is a great client. We're generating great results. They're happy with us. We're happy with them. But they're like, with this amount of money that I'm paying you, I can hire an in-house team. And I don't really want to do that because I don't want to manage them. But you kind of have to work with me. So what you don't want to be on your high horse and say, no, I demand this exact amount, right? You want to go ahead and be flexible. And what we did here was we dropped from 10% to 7.5%, right? Now that's for this client. What I'm recommending here is if they say that the percentage is too much, here's an example of what you can do. So let's say this is the pricing that you presented your prospect or your client. You told them we're going to charge you 3.5%, $3,500 a month plus 10% of revenue. And they're like, no, this is, the monthly fee is too much or the percentage of revenue is too much. What you can do is play around with the numbers, right? You can say, okay, instead of $3,500 a month, we're only going to charge you $1,500 a month, but we're going to go ahead and charge you 15% as opposed to the 10%, right? Or vice versa. You can say we're going to charge you, a higher monthly fee, but a lower percentage of revenue. You guys would be surprised. I've literally, in my experience, I've had clients who are willing to pay a higher monthly fee aside from a percentage of revenue, and then I've had some clients that are the opposite, that are willing to pay a lower monthly fee but a higher percentage of revenue. So the point here is that when you are working with RevShare, you want to be flexible and you want to present your clients with different options. Now, when you're starting, like when you first present it to them, present them something solid, see if they bite, if they actually agree to it. If they don't, you don't want to lose this client. You can actually go ahead and, play around with the numbers, because going back to what we were saying, this is literally just a number. So you're not losing, they're not losing either way. You're just presenting them with other options by playing with the monthly fee and or the percentage of revenue. So this is the percentage of revenue. So again, guys, to recap, I recommend that you charge a monthly fee plus a percentage of revenue, and you will see that a huge percentage of the revenue that you make for your agency is going to come from RevShare. It's going to come from this right here. So that is if you are a e-commerce or an information product, if you're working with e-commerce or information product, or really any business where you can actually track how much you spent versus how much you generated. For those of you guys maybe that are starting out and don't know what we mean here, in Facebook you can actually track how much did you spend, how much did you generate. But for example, for local businesses, you can't really track, how many people came from this specific ad, right? For example, we've worked with a dentist client in the past, and although we can see how many people message them and how many leads, and we can track the names of the leads in a Google Doc, there's going to be some people that come in from the ad, but they don't come in till like 2 weeks later or maybe a month later, or they come in and they don't even tell you that they first saw you from the ad. So with e-commerce and information product or any business online, you can track these numbers. Now, granted, it's not going to be 100% accurate, but that's why there's different attribution softwares, such as Northbeam, TripleWell, Hyro, so on and so forth. But nonetheless, this pricing structure is for these types of clients. Now we're going to go ahead and move to if you are a local business, right? So this pricing structure pertains to local businesses or any business that you can't accurately track the amount of revenue generated, just like the example I just gave you. So a couple things to consider here. The first one is that the amount the client is spending on ads plus your fee needs to be minimum 2x less than the expected revenue. Okay? If this is not the case, they won't be able to make sense of working with you, or they might work with you, but eventually will stop working with you because of negative return on ad spend. So essentially what we're saying here is, if the client is paying you, let's say $1,000 a month, plus they're spending $3,000 a month on ads, that's a total of $4,000. They should be expecting at least, $12,000 in return. Because if their ad spend plus the amount of money that they're paying you is is more than the amount of revenue they're generating, then they're like, okay, dude, we're running ads, we're paying you, but all of this is not bring us a positive return on ad spend. So obviously they're going to go ahead and stop working with you if they actually decided to work with you. The second thing to consider here is stay away from working with clients whose average customer is very low ticket. For example, restaurants. So just like the example that I give you guys here, if the ad spend is a lot plus your fee is less than what you're generating them, then they're not going to want to work with you long term. And a perfect example, or a perfect way to avoid that, is working with businesses that are a low ticket. So what do we mean here? What we mean here is, example, restaurants, right? So restaurants, let's show this, right? So restaurants, let's say you generate a restaurant 50 leads in 1 month. Well, on average, let's say on average a meal costs $25 a month. $25 a person. So 50 leads, 50 people times $25 a meal. That's going to come out to $1,250. Okay. Now, if they're paying you $1,000 plus they're spending, let's say, $2,000 on ad spend, that's already $3,000. But from 50 people, they were only able to generate $1,200. Then that's a negative ROI, right? So this is exactly what we mean here. Avoid these types of people. So the exact opposite is what you want to do is you want to work with businesses that have a higher ticket. Okay, so for example, if we just compare this restaurant to a med spa, if you are working with, let's say, med spa, okay, I'm not saying this is a good niche to get in or if it's a bad niche to get in, but nonetheless, a med spa, if you generate them 50 leads a month and the average client for a med spa costs $450, well, 50 times $450 comes out to $22,500. So let's use the same example. They pay you $1,000 a month plus $2,000 in ad spend. That's $3,000. Well, you generated them $22,500. They're going to be a happy client because that's more than a 5x return on ad spend. Maybe 7. I'm not sure exactly what the math is on that, but nonetheless, they can make sense of that. And now you can actually charge more because you generate them way more than what they're paying you plus their ad spend. So the way you avoid this, guys, okay, is by working with local businesses that the cost per client is higher than, let's say, that, for example, of a restaurant. Okay, restaurant is $25 a meal, wherein med spa is average $450 a person. Okay, so I hope that example made sense. Now, let's talk about how to actually price your SMA local services, because we just here talked about things to consider, things to keep in mind. So the first thing is, so it's really hard to give you an exact number as to how much to charge because each business is different. For example, the example that I mentioned here, I don't know if you're working with restaurants or med spa, so I can't tell you to charge $1,000 over here when in reality you're only going to generate them $1,200. And if I tell you $1,000 here when you're going to generate them $22,500, it doesn't make sense. So there really isn't like an exact number that I can give you, but I can give you a ballpark, which is nothing less than $500. So nothing less than $1,000. So that would be a good starting point. Again, depending on if you're just starting out, depending on how long you've been in this business, $1,000 is a good starting point. Obviously, if you are generating them lots of money and you've been in this game for a while, you probably won't be watching this video, but nonetheless, you should charge no less than $1,000. Okay. Now, how much is the max, right? Well, you can charge depending on the formula that we mentioned above, which is basically this right here: ad spend plus your fee should be less than the revenue generated. Okay, so your ad spend, the ad spend for the client plus your fee should never be more than the revenue generated. Just like the example we showed you here, med spa, 50 people times 450 equals 22,500. So in this case, you can actually charge more. You can play around with the number and charge more because you know that on average you're going to generate them this much revenue based on if you get them 50 leads. Okay, so really here, guys, with the maximum, again, it's just a number. Feel free to play with this number, but you're not going to be able to achieve this. You're not going to be able to have the luxury of playing with how much you can actually charge them if you're working with a low-ticket business like restaurants. Okay, I highly recommend you guys stay away from these types of businesses. And look, I know, there's people on YouTube that have made this work with restaurants, but they do volume, right? So they have like 50 clients, okay? and they can make it work. But from my experience, I know I would never work with a restaurant just because, the amount of money they make from one person is very little. Wherein, for example, in our best month, we did $115,000 revenue generated at the agency, and we were only working with 5 clients. How were we able to achieve that, guys? We were able to achieve that by 2 ways. One is that the amount of revenue that one client makes is a lot, and that's because they are in the e-commerce and information products niche. And then number 2, which is what I told you guys here, is percentage of rev share. Okay, so we were able to make this much working with only 5 clients, okay, because we were able to we charge our clients a percentage of rev share, and that's how we were able to achieve that. So that is how to price your SMA services. I hope this video was helpful, guys. Keep in mind, we have a bunch of more videos in our free school community covering everything that you need from A to Z on exactly how to start and scale your marketing agency. I'm literally giving you guys everything that I know about SMA for free. And why am I doing that? I'm doing that because I really want you to succeed, but I'd be lying to you if I don't have an incentive. And that is because, aside from my agency, I don't know if you guys know it or not, but we have another company where we build out the 2 most important things of being successful with SMA, which is the first, actually getting booked calls with clients. So we help build out your entire infrastructure. We put trained setters in your business who are doing all the outreach on your behalf. So we literally build out your entire infrastructure. But number 2, we build out your service delivery team. So the second most important thing is actually getting your clients results. After actually getting clients, now you got to get them results. And we build out your whole service delivery team, whether that be a media buyer, video editor, graphic designer, appointment setter, whatever the case may be, we build that out for you from A to Z. So hopefully you guys can take this information that I'm presenting to you on YouTube or on, the free school community, make some money from it. And then when you actually made some money and you're like, okay, MJ, now I really want to scale. I want to have consistent meetings every day booked. I want to have the best talent, to deliver on these services. That way I'm not working like a slave at my agency. Then you can come to me and we can do that for you. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out some other videos on the channel. Please click the link below, join our school community. With that said, thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.